Hello, and thank you for listening in to CLDF Chatter. To give you a quick overview, CLDF is a national charity which supports families whose child has a childhood liver disease, and as part of the charity we have a young people's service which provides support to 11 to 24-year-olds living with a liver condition. The Young People's Service has an online group called Hive and Hive Plus on Facebook, which enables members to connect online and share experiences. I am the Young People's Digital Engagement Officer at CLDF, Louise. I would like to introduce Callum, who is a student on placement with CLDF studying youth work, and today we would like to give a warm welcome to Louis, who is a young person who has been supported by the charity and would like to talk a little bit about his time at university with a liver condition and also the mental health challenges that have developed over this time and how he has faced them. So, hi Louis, would you like to give a brief summary of your liver condition?
Yeah, of course. So I have biliary atresia, which I have had from birth. It's something I've really never known otherwise, which has been with me through school, college and university, and has affected me in various ways, not necessarily negatively. It's just obviously had an impact on my life. So today I'll speak about student wellbeing, me at university, and before that as well, how having a chronic condition such as biliary atresia has affected my life both positively and negatively.
Well, yeah, it's great to have you back, and it's great that you are, open and confident enough to talk about this because it is a big challenge for young people currently. A lot of the young people I support especially go through emotional challenges, and it's going to be really interesting to see how your advice to others would benefit them.
Could I just ask what you were studying at university?
So I study philosophy. It's a 3-year course.
In 3 words, could you sum up what it is like living with your condition at university?
In 3 words, I would say it's unique, challenging, and motivating.
There's some good words, yeah. So hopefully we can explore them, obviously, through your story.
You're here to raise awareness of mental health at university. So why do you think this is an important thing to kind of discuss?
I think it's really important because I think today there's loads on mental health across social media, across even in the institutions, schools, colleges, universities, and they promote it in person. There's mental health advisors, student wellbeing, and it's very talked about. But I still feel as though there is a very strong taboo and very strong hesitancy to talk about it amongst especially young people. So I think it's important, I know it's very niche, me having biliary atresia, which is a liver condition, but coming from someone who has an underlying health condition, that adds to my sort of mental health side of things at uni. Just from my perspective, my overall message is that it's totally okay to speak about it, and it should be encouraged to speak about it. Your mental health, physical, your mental well-being, because that really comes first above everything. And it's everyone deals with their own hurdles. Everyone's path life is different at university, at work, at school, college. So it should be talked about.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you believe that there are certain pressures surrounding universities that you should attend university? Like, has there been that pressure on yourself that maybe impacted your mental health? Do you think kind of going to university was the right choice?
I think there's a lot I would do differently in hindsight, but I think that's the case for a lot of people. I think 18-year-old me would do a lot of things differently, not just with university, but the important thing is to learn from the lessons, take everything as a lesson. You only fail if you don't learn from lessons. The whole point, I think, from everything is to take forward all those little things, even on a day-to-day basis. If you learn where you've gone wrong, that's a success in itself. I would do things a lot differently, but I think in certain cases there are pressures to attend university, to go to university, but the pressures on each person at university, they're not always clear. I've spoken to a lot of people about the kind of phrase which a lot of adults, a lot of people who aren't in the university, even my friends who aren't at university say this, the common phrase that you should be having the time of your life, when that kind of implies this very idealistic, fantastic image of you should be partying every night, you should have the most amazing, wonderful time, which is great. You should have a fantastic time, but it's not a straight road. It's not like realities are being at university. It's very, very different to how people perceive it. This idealistic image of being at university isn't always as attainable as people think it is.
Do you feel that there are more mental health challenges for young people that have liver conditions? And do you know like the main outline of which ones are the biggest challenges?
I think when it's a physical health condition like mine, in my case, I'll give specific sort of examples in that I remember when I first started playing football, on Wednesday nights at my university, there's a student union night where you can go and party and all of that, which I do. And if you're part of a sports team, you're expected to go with them, which I do, which is fine. But when I first started, we all stood in a circle. They said, all right, we're doing fines now. As far as I'm concerned, that's like you're fined X amount of money for whatever you've done wrong, but this is kind of in an alcoholic sense. You all stand in a circle and someone will say, I would like to find someone who hasn't yet scored a goal this season or something like that. And I had to sort of have a word with he was a third or fourth year at the time and I was a second year. And I sort of said to him, look, for medical reasons, I don't tend to drink and it's not really good for me. I don't do it. And they were really, really lovely and really accommodating and made me feel really at home. But irrespective of that, it's still from a personal perspective. I always say that having an alcoholic drink in your hand is, from the perspective of someone with a liver condition, it's so much more than just a drink. It's a status that you've got an alcoholic drink in your hand. And that's something which you can't really do as someone with a liver condition. Everyone else will think it's just a drink. It's nothing. When in reality, the minute you take that thing that's taken for granted away, it suddenly becomes so much more of an entity. It's so much more of a thing in itself. Oh, an alcoholic drink in your hand. And you get that taken away. The alcohol side of things mentally can be challenging to comprehend, to kind of get your head around and to accept sometimes that you're different in that sense. As a little boy, when I first started playing football, I had to wear a guard for my spleen. And that was sort of aesthetically, when people obviously looked at me and knew I was wearing something as a little boy, it was, and especially then, children aren't as mature, people don't get it. That was another one which obviously as a little boy it affected me much more, and because of that thing that people would make fun because they're kids. But a university is still there, but in a very different way, with alcohol, I don't wear a spleen guard anymore, so that's sort of out of the question. But with regards to my sport, the alcohol with my sport team and things like that, that was probably a big thing to think about and to think, okay, I am different from the group in this sense. There is that, why are you not drinking, all of this stuff.
And how did you overcome that feeling of I am different?
I think it really helped when they were really lovely and really accepting and were very welcoming to that. But I think for me, I was very focused on developing relationships within the team, focused on bettering myself, sort of believing in myself for who I was. I soon learned not everyone's the same. I soon realized that there were lots of other people that had various troubles with this, that, the other, that, I wasn't the only one that had a health condition. I guess I just embraced it, I think is the right word. I was very proud of myself in the way that I dealt with it, in that I was very honest, open, and didn't try to cover anything up. I think when you face these challenges, it's important to be proud of yourself for essentially giving it your best shot and trying to overcome these and establishing methods to better yourself and stay well mentally and physically. When you're actively trying, I know mine isn't the biggest example, but it can be really suffocating if you are struggling mentally with something at uni. When you seek help, that in itself is something which you should be proud of. I tried to just focus on forming relationships and try and put the drink aside. That was my method of trying to just really socialize and just be open with the group, as opposed to getting myself too down about it, trying to hide anything.
Was you looking at like forming positive relationships with people that understood you?
Yeah. I kind of became very aware of who would be more on board with it than others. And those people I'm always very thankful for. All of the team were fantastic when I joined. They still are. Been really supportive, and they were drinking Champions League football on and things like that. I'd watch that with my friends in the room. I would focus on things that weren't drink related and try to take my headspace away from that. Just establishing those ways of being able to be me basically, as opposed to trying to conform or trying to be the way they are.
Just out of interest, have you ever been in a situation that has been quite difficult? So when there has been a drinking environment, people have got a bit silly out of hand. Like, what have you done to manage that for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, in general, I've been very lucky with the people I've been surrounded by, but there is one time in particular where I just went for basically a drink of, not an alcoholic one. I have 0.0, like 0.0 ciders, things like that. And I went for a drink in town with my friends. It was a summer night. It was last year, and it was really nice weather. And we were in quite a big group, sort of 6 or 7 of us. And 2 of my best mates, my sort of closest mates, was sort of by my side. At one point, one of the guys in the group was very, very intent that I have a drink. And after I'd declared that I don't really want any beer or anything like that, and he was very, making a joke out of the fact that I wasn't drinking and really, really pressing it, putting the drink in front of me and things like that. I spoke to my good friends afterwards, basically spoke about that it was difficult when sometimes people aren't aware of the genuine reasons behind why you're not drinking. I think later that night, my friends, the close friends to my left, they actually basically said, there are genuine reasons behind this, but I felt very I felt very small at the time. No, I didn't really know how to react or where to turn at the time, but I think it boils down to that knowledge that people just don't know. You've almost just got to accept that it's okay for them not to know. I know that can lead to difficult situations like that, but ultimately I'm not cross with the person that did it. I'm not angry. The reason I'm not angry is I accept that my liver condition is something which I can't expect him to know about that. Most doctors don't know a lot about my condition, let alone him. Sometimes people can get out of hand with the drinking thing. Sometimes people can question too much, but just remember and retain the fact to yourself that you're doing what's right for you. You're not giving in. If those people knew the reality, they would be totally on board with what you're saying, and why you're standing up for yourself. But unfortunately, a lot of people will never understand what you've been through hospital-wise, the real reasons behind you not drinking. If you have a liver condition, it's very easy to just almost for it to go in one ear and out the other. So yeah, your close friends will know, and your close friends will accept that. It can be very difficult, but just retain that you're doing everything right, doing what's best for you.
There's some good advice. Like you say, it's a difficult topic, isn't it? And it's one of them that actually having a liver condition is like a hidden health condition. People don't necessarily see that inside. You've got to look after that organ, and it's not visual, is it?
That element you said about hidden, the invisibility aspect of it is massive, really. Whenever I go out, no one would guess anything. No one would point the finger and say, oh, you have a chronic condition. No one would know. And then there's obviously that aspect years and years ago, as people with biliary atresia would know growing up. A lot of the time there's the enlarged spleen, which does mean there's that visual aspect, which obviously isn't student wellbeing related. You're a little girl, you're a little boy at the time who's got that enlarged spleen. But that, like I said years ago with the spleen guard, that just goes hand in hand with, I guess, immaturity with people at the time. Years ago, it was more visual, but now it's totally invisible, and people are quite shocked when I say, oh, I have a chronic liver condition. A lot of my football team, when I first said, a lot of my friends, for starters, they don't know anything about it. And secondly, it's very much a what? You have a liver condition? Really? Very difficult to believe it, really.
Visually, everything looks okay, doesn't it? It's all fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously it's people understanding your past and what's happened with your health. So I guess some really, really good advice there. And obviously I can assume a lot of the young people who are looking at going to university or are there go through very similar experiences. So it's nice for them to hear that they're not alone, and the way you've managed it is some really good advice there. We get a lot of young people as well, and I don't know if this is something that's been on your journey, that they have experienced bullying. And again, that's another big aspect that plays a part on young people's mental health, because it just brings in that reminder of people treating you differently for something that, like, everybody's different in their own way. So why is it that a young person with a liver condition is targeted?
I think as a little boy, like I say, there were kids playing around and poking fun, but in the later years, I guess there are odd occasions where something happens, but the bullying in my case or anything where I've been singled out, I think it's more the psychological thing that a lot of people, in my case, I sometimes do it myself. I anticipate perhaps that I'm going to be singled out. 9 times out of 10, I'm not. But sometimes I feel as though I'm bound to be the one, especially with sport again. It's kind of, there's that, oh, he's the one with the liver condition. My message to people who have liver condition or any other sort of chronic physical condition at all is that you're not alone. There's people like myself who've had the psychological questioning themselves all the time and sort of trying to establish themselves as a person at university, regardless of whether your condition is visible or not. I know that can bring on different hurdles, be it visible or whether it's one or the other. But I guess it's that extra, obviously everyone as a young person, everyone's trying to find their feet, everyone's trying to find who they are. But when you suddenly add something like a chronic condition to that, where you've got medication, hospital visits, where you've got perhaps psychological difficulties, which mean that you doubt yourself or question yourself, that just adds another sort of layer to that finding yourself, which in my case has been difficult, but it's also, like I said, been very motivating, which is part of why, again, a lot of this is very sort of sport related, but certainly from a physical sort of perspective with my sport, I've used my condition to almost thrust me forward and be so motivated to get involved, to be part of the team at whichever level I play. And that's given me something to essentially fight for, to be the best I can be. It's given me an extra layer of determination.
Brilliant.
What kind of support do you think universities could offer young people in a similar situation to you?
I think, if I'm honest, across the country, I think there should be more sort of student wellbeing ambassadors. The idea of an ambassador or a student mentors for first years and things like that. But I've had one occasion where I felt as though I'd like to speak to someone at university and I had to make an appointment, find a time where they were available and I was available, which is fine. It wasn't the most accessible thing in the world. I felt it was slightly long-winded, considering all I wanted was to just speak to someone independent at my university. I think as well that the student sort of mental wellbeing ambassador thing, the rolling that out as a more national program, and this doesn't have to be applied into input into all universities, that it can be a scheme, which I'd like to see that. For example, if I became a young person's ambassador for mental health, I would have on my profile, I would have my name, my degree course, and basically why I became an ambassador. Just encourage openness about it, which I think is really, really important, because the minute we start talking and sharing experiences about being at university, but how we are as individuals, if we start having young person ambassadors, it's that sense of, it's not a professional, it's another one of you. If you have a housemate, if you have a flatmate, that person could be a young person's ambassador. At the end of the day, they're still your flatmate. They're one of you. You know that they're not a professional. And it would just be good to have a cohort of students, I think, that were just volunteers. And you can contact them, Zoom call them, you can meet with them at your university. It's a good way to make friends as well. So it basically break down the stigma that these things shouldn't be talked about.
And if a situation occurred where you're at university and you did notice that your mood had changed and you did feel a little bit low in yourself, obviously there's a scale almost with mental health, and it could be the start of it and it's a little bit of like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit different in myself, to like severe where literally someone can't get out of bed and they're feeling very depressed. What kind of avenue of support would that person explore at university?
So with my university, we have student support. I mean, I mentioned the idea of booking an appointment, which I feel as though booking an appointment with regards to mental health is okay, but there is no 24-hour. I mean, there are independent ones across the country, but with regards to my university, there isn't. The reason I was speaking about this student ambassador for mental health, if you had hundreds of them across the country, you would then have a platform of people who have shared their experience with a certain difficulty, who are still playing, they're still playing football, they're still playing netball, they're still doing their university course, they're doing all of that, but they have had difficulties, which illustrates that it's not a straight road for them. It's not a straight road for any of us, which is exactly the problem with like social media, in that everyone's on their phones, everyone posts exactly what you want to see of their life, which is you go out for a drink with 6 or 7 people and you look great and you're going to put it on Instagram because it looks fantastic. In the reality of that person, probably a lot of the time is that they could have received some bad news, they could have anything at all, but they're not going to talk about it. So if we had more ambassadors, more volunteers in that sense, it would not only be good practically, but it would be good because it would kind of input that message into people's head that it's okay to talk about it. This is something which we are talking about and should be talking about, but university and being a young person is not straightforward. It's okay to have difficulties. It's okay to feel other than absolutely terrific all the time, which people don't.
Yeah, I agree. You've talked about mental health at university a lot, but what are the positives of being at university?
Well, being at university has 2 sides to it. It has the academic side, you're learning, and then it has the sort of life aspect of it, that you're becoming a well-rounded adult, you're learning new things, you go and you start living, you start kind of living well with flatmates, housemates. It's very exciting. Obviously your course, hopefully, which you enjoy, which you like, is well intellectually great. You enjoy what you do, whether that be science and you're in a lab, perhaps like myself who does philosophy and you're reading, you're writing. But then there's the aspects of getting involved in new things. Like I said about the sort of learning from your mistakes, in itself, that's quite exciting because there's that satisfaction you get at uni a lot where you are bettering yourself all the time. There's so many things that go wrong in a day, which you leave your laptop charger at your house, you get 5 out of 10 in questions on a seminar instead of 8 out of 10. There's so many things which go wrong, which the next week won't go wrong because you've learned from it. And you get to the end of the term, you get to 6 weeks later and you think, oh, this is starting to go better now. These things are improving. So there's a lot of satisfactory stuff at university which happens because you're constantly learning, I guess. And that's not just academically, that's about yourself. So overall, it is very satisfying to see results come through on both sides.
This like development you're talking about, do you think is the positive sides on your mental health from being at uni, seeing the development in yourself?
Yeah, I think if you're struggling with mental health at university, again, that adds another aspect to your journey at university. And I think that's, again, one of those things I said earlier, the minute you seek for help yourself and make that first step, that itself is satisfying. That's something to be proud of for yourself from a personal growth kind of success point of view, that you've had the honesty with yourself, you've had the proactive kind of, you've been very forward with yourself and said, okay, let's try and help myself here. I think university in a nutshell is all about bettering yourself, learning, developing yourself as a young person. And hopefully at the end of it, you leave with, yes, a good degree, but you also leave as well with a sense that you've had some great experiences, which been up and down, but you've come out at the end. You've got a sense of achievement that you've learned so many things about yourself and about things you want to take forward, things you want to change, get better at. You have a better, well-rounded vision of what you want to become and who you are currently.
What would your top tips be to young people who are maybe struggling a little bit at uni and kind of want some advice or support? What would your top tips be for them?
My top tips for people at university who are perhaps having a harder time talking about it, regardless of what that problem is, I think it's great to get things off your chest. And perhaps you don't want to talk to your parents about that problem, turn to your friends at university, those ones who will listen. That's step one, to get off your chest what you need to, because that's a weight off your shoulders. Secondly, understand that you're not alone, that this is national. If you're feeling mentally challenged by whatever you're facing, a lot of the time people think, okay, I'll bottle it up and I'll go outside and pretend that I'm fine. Actually, the irony is the person in front of you and the person behind you, chances are, has probably done the same thing in this day and age. It's common that people do that. People decide that they're going to bottle it up and not speak about it, if you decide individually that you are going to get something off your chest and it is okay to not be okay, that will be respected by a lot of people, and you should have a lot of admiration for yourself that you've done that as well. It sounds very simple, but just, if it is your parents, FaceTime your parents. If it's someone in your family, again, call them, brother, sister, friends at university. Speak to those people that you know will be there for you.
That's some great advice. It is one of them, isn't it? It's reaching out to people like family and friends. And us as a charity, like, we do have many one-to-one conversations with young people where they just need to let off some steam, talk about their feelings, and then we kind of work out a little plan between myself and the young person as to what actions can be taken to best support their emotional, mental health and wellbeing. So yeah, it's great that you are obviously giving some amazing advice to young people who may need that at this time.
So what would you advise to other young people that are planning on going to university?
My top tip would be go where you are going to be happiest. There's a lot of, the word prestige is a big thing. People are, a lot of the time when they're 17, 18, and this is fueled by institutions a lot of institutions sort of push their students for everything from Oxbridge to Russell Group unis to the best unis in the country, and really push that. And you, in turn, young people end up battling out to get to the most prestigious place they can. And I was guilty of that. I was very blinkered. It was kind of Russell Group or nothing. I went to a really good college and they were, again, very keen for me to go to the best place. But if you're going to university, choose a course and choose a university which will maximize the most happiness for you. It's very important because, like I said, it's not just academics, it's a life as well. So choose somewhere where you're going to enjoy being. You've got to live here, you've got to be at home here, and that's really, really important. Don't think about whether your degree is going to make you the richest person in the country or make you the next prime minister. That's not really what your aim should be. Your aim should be to go and have a great time at university and come out with a good degree and enjoy what you do, not all the other stuff. Because if you enjoy what you do and you're happy, they're two huge factors which are going to help you massively, especially coming from someone who perhaps has got a liver condition, things like that. In our case, that's even more pressing, all of those things. So yeah, that would be my advice.
University is like your next step, isn't it? And you have to go where you feel comfortable, where it feels like home, especially if you're going to live there. And yeah, be connected with the right people that make you feel supported. So again, couldn't agree more with you, Louis. It's some incredible advice, because that's one thing you don't want to do is pick the wrong uni. You don't want to start at a uni and be like, actually, this one's not for me.
Yeah, that's not the path that you sort of aim for. No.
Yeah, that's it. So all this advice, weigh it all up, go and see the open days and take your time, isn't it? So
yeah.
And it's one of them as well, because schools put a lot of pressure on students to go to university straight away. And if university isn't the right step at that time for you as a person, there are a lot of other options, aren't there, to explore?
When you're 18, it feels like the kind of most pivotal moment in your life, whether you've got into university or not. In actual fact, you're 18 years old. So if you're listening to this and you're maybe doing your GCSEs, or you're going into A-levels, you're an A-level student, you're very, very young. And university is, at the time, my time when I was around that age, I viewed university very much as the be-all and end-all. I think when I got accepted to uni, I treated it like the golden ticket. I was very blinkered to all these other options. Today, there are so many options. Apprenticeships are growing, different trainee schemes. There are so many jobs available that you can go to, that you can try. And there's a lot you can throw your hand at and try and get involved with and basically use as your next step. That is not university. University is great, but it's not for everyone. You don't have to go to university. There are so many options and it's really important to explore them.
Yeah, because either way, whatever works best for you can lead to great successes, because I think there's a stereotypical view that university students are in the highest paid jobs, and there are facts and figures that probably support that, but at the same time there are big successes in people actually climbing the career in a workforce and getting those opportunities of promotion and apprenticeships. You get paid while you work, and they usually lead to a job at the end. So it just depends kind of what someone's goals are and what they want to achieve, isn't it? And they're all valuable choices. So it's about picking the right avenue for you, and that avenue that best suits you will most likely lead to a more positive approach on your mental health and well-being, because there's nothing worse than being unhappy in a setting that you don't like, is there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So no, we really value you coming on today, Louis, and sharing about your experience and your advice and what you've learned over your nearly 3 years at uni, isn't it?
Yeah, 3 years.
Yes,
yeah.
Obviously you are coming to the end of uni and you've got a few last assignments and exams to take. I can imagine they're a bit of a stress for you, but
it's all gone very quickly, all considering I started in 2020, which was COVID as well. Things have sort of gone extremely quickly, and I know that sounds very cliche, but it really has. So it's slightly scary to be graduating so soon, but like you say, I guess it's also very exciting. You get these exams done, get them out of the way, and then it's on to the next chapter, I guess, which uni's been great, but I've now got to see what lies ahead, which is also very, very exciting. So, which is another thing about uni. What are you doing next? You've got to think about that. And that's really important to think about. So it's exciting overall.
Yeah, exciting. And we wish you all the best with your next venture after university.
Thank you.
And like we said, CLDF, we do offer support all the way. So if anybody out there listening, or yourself, Louis, like you did want some advice about next steps, then that is something we can discuss in a one-to-one. So yeah, it's been great. Thank you very much for joining us.
I'd like to say thank you for the information. It's been good.
No, my pleasure. Anytime. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.
For those that are listening in, it's lovely that you've joined us on CLDF Chatter. I am the Young People's Officer, so if you do need any support from listening to this podcast, or there's any concerns that you may have or advice that you might need, please do contact us on Hive, our online Facebook group chat, or you could email ypo@childliverdisease.org. Or alternatively, you can call us on 0121 212 3839, and we look forward to hearing from you.